Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Lisa Arie, and she's co founder and CEO over at Vista Caballo. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. So we'll be talking about filling the gap between strategy and execution in business. So many people give advice, get advice, but all about execution. Execution. What does that look like? How is Lisa and Vista Caballo helping businesses accomplish their goals? So we're going to get into all of that and more. But Lisa, just to get us kicked off, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Lisa, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's what we do. Lisa, what mission matters to you?
Well, Adam, imagine a world without fear.
Hmm.
Imagine a world where consciousness reigns.
Hmm.
When we have that world, everyone has the courage and the awareness
Hmm.
to use their creativity and their intelligence in service to every living thing,
Hmm.
probably in ways that they may have once thought was impossible.
Hmm.
Imagine a world that is safe for all children.
Hmm.
So that's our vision, and our mission is bringing that to life.
Yeah.
And I was able to leverage my personal experience of the transformation that happens when we step across the edge of our fear
Hmm.
and face them. And that's how
Mhm.
Vista Caballo was born.
Wow. I want to go, we're going to go further into this. And I love that topic of fear and what that means, and why it's important to cross that and to do some things maybe that we're not always comfortable with, for progress and for growth. I mean, I do things all day long that I'm like, I just had a 1 year anniversary of, or maybe it was 1 year. Yeah. 1 year anniversary of doing a certain type of interview that I've never done before, like in front of a live studio crowd, all this other stuff. And I'm like, I was scared to do that. I was scared to do this at one point. I was scared to do any show or anything, but we just keep doing them. So I love this concept of fear and even overcoming it. But before we go deeper into that, I do want to kind of set the stage a little bit further, and just maybe some of your background in entrepreneurship and otherwise, like what brought you here today?
Quite a journey, quite a ride. Um, you know, what I started as a young woman who got a job in advertising, and it turned into a several decade long career.
Mm,
And sort of somewhere in there, I got a little bit of a wake up call
mm,
that maybe there was something more, right? And but my wake up call showed up in the form of a diagnosis of a terminal disease.
mm,
And that's what made me realize that my life and my career and my work was all about achievement.
mm.
And in that moment, when I was told it was game over, uh, I realized that wasn't life at all.
Wow.
Not at all. And I was so bummed, Adam. I was so
Mm,
I wasn't even I don't think I could really even get to the "I'm gonna die" part, because I was so bummed that I missed the ride, that I missed the
mm,
ride of life. And so I decided, with whatever time I had left, which they weren't quite sure, I was gonna go experience life that way. What was life
mhm.
like without focusing on achievement?
Yeah.
And that's how Vista Caballo was born, and that's how I ended up on this show.
Mm. Staying in those earlier days a little bit further, like, what is that, what did life look like when you started thinking about not only focusing on achievement? And the reason I asked this, by the way, is because there's so many, I mean, post pandemic, post, like, a lot of different ways, there's people out there thinking about and planning what they want the future of their lives to even look like, whether it's how many hours working, life balance, whatever the words are, whatever matters to people. What was that like for you to then kind of make that shift of even just mindset?
Well, it was a pretty big step
Yeah,
because Vista Caballo didn't exist. I mean,
yeah,
a couple of decades ago, you couldn't even say the word emotional in corporate hallways, right? It's a
that's
different
true.
right? It's a different
Yeah,
world now.
yeah,
So it was I think had I not there was, such a stopgap behind me. There was no other place to go,
yeah.
right? It's not that way for everybody, and that's what I encourage. You don't have to have this big, huge moment to
Hmm.
actually look at your life and check in and see, is it really what I want? Am
Hmm.
I really living it how I want? Not to be afraid of the answer, right? Well, what if the answer is no, it's not? Like, so people don't want to ask that question because what if it's a no, I don't want this life? Then you have
Hmm.
to figure out, well, what is the life that I want? And then how do I get there?
Hmm.
And those are all sort of secondary questions. The most important question is this the life that
Hmm.
I came here to live?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, you've spoken your truth.
Mm.
And that's when the transformation starts to happen.
Mm.
Things will start to align, things will start to show up, opportunities will start to show up. I mean, it really is the sort of magic of love, right?
Mm.
And when we speak the truth to ourselves, it's the most loving thing we can do.
Yeah. So you have this concept of, or I should ask you, for Vista Caballo, the idea, did it come to you at once or was it a gradual progression? Like, how did you come up with the initial concept?
Well, I was my first client.
Mm.
And
I
so,
love those stories, by the way, when somebody's figuring out something for themselves and see the benefit in that. That's my favorite entrepreneurial story, always. Go ahead, please.
yeah, so I was my first client, and it took, a decade for me
Hmm.
to figure it out, and lots of different modalities and teachers and experiences.
Hmm.
And when I felt like I had got it figured out, and
Hmm.
clearly I'm not dead, right? So the work works.
Yeah.
And I think the antidote to dying is living, is what I
Mm.
found out. So anyway, when I finally started realizing
Hmm.
the incredible experience of life
Mm.
that was beyond this experience of achieving,
Hmm.
um, I thought to myself, well, maybe there's one other person that could benefit from it. That was my
Hmm.
thought. Maybe there's with everything that I've learned, maybe there's one other person out there who's also thinking and feeling the same way.
Mm.
So I should share it. And
Mhm.
that's how Vista Caballo began. There wasn't a business plan.
Yeah.
I never thought this was not in my
Which
plan.
is different from your past, by the way, because I mean, business, you've had multiple exits, you've done like business, so as in the traditional sense. So just throwing that out there, so for context for the audience. So I get it. That's why it's so interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so it was more about, okay, well, it's probably not a very good business model if it takes 10 years.
Yeah. Hey,
Uh,
welcome to the club. I've been podcasting for a long time now.
so I thought, well, let me try and encapsulate it. How
Mhm.
can we make it? How can we get all this wonder,
Mm.
and all this incredible intelligence that I found in nature?
Mhm.
Um, how do we get that in a form that you know is more accessible
Yeah.
for people? And that's what I started figuring out. And I had really great partners in the horses,
Mhm.
because really it just takes a few minutes when
Mm.
you're with them. They're on a different energetic frequency than we are. And I know that may sound a little woo to some people out there, but it's very scientific.
It is, and
It's
I'm learning about that more. I saved some of that for you for the interview when we did our prep. I'm learning. So Dr. Nancy O'Reilly's been teaching me a thing or two about horses from the Southern California Equestrian Center. So continue, but I was like, when she was telling me about some of the things behind that, I'm like, wow, it's fascinating. The
yeah.
horses are amazing.
Yeah, they are incredible. So,
Mhm.
yeah, nothing quite like it. And like I say, they're on a different frequency, and it's kind of like violins.
Mm,
When you get in their energetic field, your energetic field starts to calibrate. There are 40,000 neurons that go from your heart to this part of your brain.
mhm,
You mentioned fear, so fear is back here, right? It's in
mhm,
the amygdala, but the neurons go to this part of your brain, which is your imagination. It's what
mhm.
mindfulness develops.
Yeah.
And so it's like a immediate access to
Mhm,
that part of your brain, and yeah, there's nothing like it, hands down. There's absolutely nothing like it. My wonderful, incredible husband, who built Vista Caballo with his own hands.
wow.
Um, yeah, so several years into it, when we saw person after person
Mhm,
transforming and having their awakening and their self-realization,
mhm.
I looked at Jess and I said, the whole world needs this.
Mm,
How are we going to get this to the whole world?
yeah.
That was a very expensive question. um, but anyway, we brought in a bunch of scientists to figure out what is it inside us when you're
Mhm,
standing there and all of a sudden you realize the truth. The earth is
mm,
not flat, it's round. I'm not afraid. I'm incredibly courageous. That changes
mm.
everything. What happens inside of us in that moment where we find the truth?
Yeah.
And so these brilliant scientists were able to identify what happens, and it has to do with our thinking. You
Mhm,
know, so this is where it starts to tie into business, because our thinking determines our results.
mhm,
So if you're not having the results that you want,
mhm.
or you're not having the results that you want in the time frame that you want, you have to start with your thinking.
Yeah.
And so we can now access that thinking. It's the thinking beyond the thinking. It's metacognition. What do you really think?
Mm,
95% of our thinking is subconscious or unconscious.
mm,
95%, 95% of our thinking. So here we are as mission driven entrepreneurs and CEOs who want to break new ground and
mhm.
make our world better. And we're using 5% of our thinking. And that thinking is habituated. And we want to break new ground. No, not a good equation.
Yeah.
We're not going to get there, or it's going to take us a really long time to get there. And as far as I'm
There's
concerned,
so much potential, like, that hasn't been unlocked. That's the exciting part to me, the
yeah,
potential.
yeah, exactly. And we need to get there now. Our
Mhm,
world needs us now.
mhm,
So that's where we were able to sort of take nature and neuroscience and blend it together and put it on a platform
mm,
that now anybody in the world can access, so that you too can unlock your thinking that will unlock the
mm,
future that you came here to bring onto this planet.
yeah. Go further into that concept for me, please. The concept of melding nature and neuroscience, because I find it fascinating. I mean, it's highly interesting, and just that concept of I guess there's kind of the biohacking thing. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but in this, like hacking performance by like in a holistic way and by combining these two, I just think it's interesting. So go a little bit further into what that looks like.
It's more what it feels like.
Okay. Hmm.
It feels wonderful. It feels
Hmm.
really freeing. There's something called cognitive dissonance, right?
Hmm.
So when we are behaving a certain way, acting a certain way, living our
Hmm.
life in a certain way, but it is different than what our belief system is.
Mm.
And that's called cognitive dissonance. And so when you come face to face with that, I always say you're going to come face to face with the greatest negotiator
Hmm.
you've ever met, which
Yeah.
which is you,
Yeah.
because what you're up
Because I
against.
know what I'm thinking, or at least I know. I think I know what I'm thinking. Hopefully.
Well, kind of what happens is it's almost like, well, there's the status quo.
Hmm.
It's what I know, right? And
Hmm.
humans love to know. It's why
Yeah.
Google took off, right? We love to know. It's what makes us feel safe. So
Mhm.
the status quo is what we know. The
Mm.
familiar equates to safe in our
Yeah.
brain, right? The status quo is familiar, so it's safe,
Mhm.
even if it's not the life we want to live,
Yeah,
right?
that's the thing.
Right. So then what do we do about it? We know that there's a better life. We know there's a better way.
Yeah.
We know there's we know we need to connect in a
Mhm.
different way. But how do we do it? And
Mm.
the only thing we know is what we know. We don't know our own operating systems. I mean, the
Mhm.
human design is incredible. And once you start to learn about how it actually operates, it's even
Mhm.
more awe-inspiring. Like most of us know how to work our phones better than we know how to work ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And so what this is an experience of that. I liken it to simulators. So
Mhm.
we're gonna put you in a simulator, whether it's experiential with the horses or whether it's on our digital platform. It's a
Mhm.
simulator where you get to experience yourself
Mm.
differently. So we're not gonna blow up the ship, right? Let's
Yes.
keep the ship intact, keep everything as it is, but let's have an experience of ourselves interrelating in a
Mm.
different way, thinking in a different way, feeling in a different way,
Mhm.
and then see if we explode, which we don't.
We do not.
We do not.
Mhm.
And so then the brain goes, "Ah, we didn't die."
Yeah.
And not only that, I feel better. I feel calmer. I feel
Mm.
more present. I feel less stressed. And
Mhm.
so all of a sudden, we're making better decisions, which then starts to build our confidence. It's the upward spiral, right?
Mm.
Right now, a lot of us are living in what I call the downward spiral.
Mhm.
So when we're uncertain, our performance decreases.
Mm.
And then we get more uncertain. And then our performance continues to decrease. So that's the downward spiral.
Mhm.
This is like the stopgap. It's like, well, the brain just wants to know. It's actually not quite particular about the information. It just wants to know
Mhm.
something. So
Yeah.
let's give it something to know, but let's make sure that it's accurate, good, healthy information that starts that upward spiral,
Mhm.
right? So all of a sudden now I know. I know how to cross my edge
Yeah.
confidently without fear. And then when I do, there's a whole new world there, right?
Mm.
And this is the world that I've been looking for. And then our performance increases,
Yeah.
right? And then we get more certain. And then
And
our
that's not an accident. Like,
right,
that's it's almost like a pattern that you're building. Am I
that's
off
right.
on that?
That's right. So you are building new, neurological pathways. It takes a
Mm.
certain amount of time. It takes
Mm.
you know, 21 days to build new neural, science is discovering, things all the time. But at this point, it's like 21 days,
Mhm.
63 days to, create a habit. But this practice, especially on the digital platform, is 3 minutes a day.
Mm.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Right. So,
Yes.
and it comes from within us.
Mhm.
So in this world that, is becoming so technological, even though this is a digital platform,
Mhm.
it's us connecting with ourselves,
Mhm.
discovering new horizons in ourself, discovering new ways to be within ourself, and that's why there's such an impact on our health.
Yeah. Can you go further into the platform? Because I wanna make sure, and also the nature or the in-person component. Because I wanna make sure that, those that are watching get the full benefit and kinda understanding of exactly how this works. And obviously, it's gonna be different the way they engage with it and how their change and success can come, but how does it work?
Hmm. You mean the actual technical
Yeah,
process?
like the actual platform and engaging and, like, going through the processes or the modalities.
Okay, so right now, if you go onto our website and you go
Mhm,
under the Still Point experience, there's actually a report, a free
mhm,
report. So you can log in and
mhm,
and when you log in, there's an assessment. It's a science-based assessment
Mhm.
to identify how you make decisions when you're out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
We thought that could be kind of helpful, right? Because that's what keeps us playing safe,
Yeah.
right? We want to stay in the comfort zone because that's what's familiar. But
Mhm.
that's also what keeps us here. And we need to be out here,
Mhm.
right? We need to be creating a new world
Yeah.
for each other. So let's sort of leapfrog and figure out, well, what's going to hold us back from making those big, bold decisions that we need to make to create new worlds. And that's
Mm.
what the assessment does, right?
Mhm.
So you get to actually see how you currently make decisions
Mhm.
outside of your comfort zone. And if you shifted to a different mindset, and it will tell you specifically which mindset will be good for you to shift to. So you're going to be different than me, then it's going to be different from someone else. But it will
Mm.
say specifically, this is the mindset that if you start to lead with when you're making decisions, will
Mhm.
change your perspective, which means you can then see things that you couldn't see before. You can see
Yeah.
solutions you couldn't see before. And that's the transformation.
Mhm.
And so you can do it as an individual, you can do it as teams. And it happens, like I say, the part of the platform is once we know that information,
Mhm.
what do we do with it? Right. So
Mm.
we've got this habituated thinking going on right now, this automated thinking, this
Mhm.
way that we've been making decisions. That's wired, that's wired. So
Yeah.
we're going to do this as as part of, just our daily operating system. So what we do is sort of provide, an interruption to that. And so
Mm.
every day, 3 minutes a day,
Mm.
you're going to be solving a challenge of your choice,
Mm.
already input into the system. You're going to be solving that challenge using this new thinking. That's a simulator that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden and it has to be something that's really relevant, something that you want to solve in the next 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Do it using this new thinking. And so when you do that, 3 weeks from now, you're like, I'm an insta genius, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how the platform works.
Yeah.
Um, you'll interact with me, and I can take you, on a much deeper dive.
Mhm.
But there's learning modules on there.
Mhm.
Say there's science-based daily practices depending on what thinking style you're in. So
Mhm.
I use the analogy of basketball. I don't know why, but I use the analogy of basketball where everyone just wants to get on the court and play the game, right?
Mhm.
But but first we have to dribble the ball, and we have to do it so well that when we're
Mm.
playing the game, we're not thinking about dribbling the ball.
Yeah.
That's what the development platform is for. We're going to use this new mindset, over and over and over and over again to solve challenges that we want to solve in 3 week
Mhm.
in 3 week, sprints, so that it starts to become automatic. So that
Mm.
as we go into life,
Mhm.
we don't have to stop. We don't have to reach for our coping skills. We don't have to, play it safe. We don't have to use
Mhm.
fear strategies. Instead, we can use new thinking to just keep our momentum and our growth going.
Mhm. It makes total sense, and you make it sound so simple. I have to ask you, who is this appropriate for? Like, who are the typical types of individuals that engage in this? Because it sounds a lot of fun too, honestly. Like solving these challenges, going through. I do like working on myself. I like
Yeah.
things like, I mean, when I learned about the little I know about neuroplasticity and my synapses, I was like, oh my gosh, that's like we all have this superpower to change and reprogram ourselves. And once I kind of got that, which I feel very blessed that I probably got that in my early 20s,
Yeah.
the world, I just started seeing it differently.
Yeah.
So, getting back to the question, like, who's this appropriate for? Like, who leans into this process and these ideas?
Well, just to pick up on something you said, it is
Mm.
simple.
Mm.
Most of us are not used to
Not easy, simple.
it can be easy,
Mm.
right? It's all about, as my
I
husband.
don't know, but my prefrontal cortex doesn't let very many things be easy in my life, Lisa. I'm gonna speak for myself on that one.
We're gonna have to put you through a sprint. Like, if you ain't like
That always complicates things. I have arguments with my prefrontal cortex all the time. Sorry, go
okay,
ahead.
we'll talk afterwards and we'll get you
That might be a personal issue. Got it. Go ahead. No.
right. That's right. You know, as my husband says, you gotta want it, right?
Yeah.
So, it just
Mm.
depends on, do you want to be present? Do
Yeah.
you want to have the experience of being present?
Mhm.
Um, so, you know, who's it for? It's for people that love to learn. It's for people that
Yeah.
love to be their best. It's for companies that are not going to get hung up in what the tool is. They're
Mhm.
looking for a way to get, you know, their mission out on the planet now,
Yeah.
right? So now,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, what do you call people like that? You know, you can call them progressive and intelligent and, um, you know, I think for me, it's about being people centric. It's about being
Mm.
heart centric. It's about being courageous.
Mm.
I think the people that we work with are incredibly courageous. They have part of their mission is to be here to serve others.
Mhm.
That's really what drives them. They're not really hung up in themselves. They're really, really looking for, how do I be my best because I want to have the greatest impact on our planet that I possibly can for the good of
Mm.
the planet, for the good of humanity.
Yeah.
Those people.
It's amazing. Well, Lisa, this has been so much fun, really, having you on the show, getting more to know more about what you're doing at Vista Caballo, and also just about what makes us tick as humans, in my opinion, and like what motivates us as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as people, like to get out there and like the stuff's not easy, like whether it's business or life, it's not easy. So, love the work you're doing, how you're supporting people. That being said, if somebody wants to continue the conversation, wants to connect, wants to learn more about the platform or otherwise, how do they do that?
Just email me.
Hmm.
You know, it's lisa@vistacaballo.com. I'd be absolutely delighted to continue the conversation, answer all your questions. You know, we're here. We're here for you.
Yeah.
You know, as we say, when mission driven succeeds, we all benefit, right?
Love it. And when you're talking mission, you're talking my language. So thank you again. And to the audience, thank you for tuning in. Without you, we can't do this. So appreciate you tuning in. And if you haven't hit that subscribe or follow button yet, we welcome you. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're putting out new content. We're bringing you new leaders and hopefully new ideas to help you along the way in your journey. So again, hit that subscribe or that follow button. And Lisa, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
My pleasure, Adam. Thank you for having me.